right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Rowski, and I'll be your host for today. It's been a busy month at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We have a ton of live events for classrooms to check out. Every February, we kick all the men out and host women in science, adventure, exploration, and conservation. So do visit our website, exploringbytheseat.com, to find all of the events we have coming up this month and to register with your students. So really exciting event today in partnership with Reach the World and Endurance22. If you've been following along, you know for the last few months, we've been connecting with various team members, from archaeologists, expedition leaders, to people working with really cool ocean technology like ROVs and buoys to detect and pick up new information about the ocean. And we've been learning about what it takes to get ready for a massive undertaking, this large expedition that is Endurance22. And it has come to that time where it is just days before the departure of the expedition and them heading to the Weddell Sea in search of Ernest Shackleton's ship, the Endurance. This is an incredible expedition with an amazing team using cutting-edge technology to search probably below the ice at a depth of about 3,000 meters to try and find this very historically significant lost ship. So right now, the SA Agulhas II is in its home port in South Africa. The crew is on board. They're preparing everything for departure. And we're lucky to have Tim Jacob joining us from Reach the World on board the ship. And we're going to catch up and hear all about those preparations, get a chance to ask Tim some questions. Let's bring him in live. Hey, Tim, how you doing today?
Hey, Joe, I'm doing great. Great to see you. I think your description of the expedition could not be more spot on. You should see the activity around the ship today as everybody's getting loaded and ready to go.
I can only imagine, Tim. I have been watching behind you, seeing people kind of zipping back and forth, and I'm sure there's lots of things to get sorted, lots of things to get tucked away before the ship departs. Why don't we start? I think a great spot to start would be, tell us a little bit about your adventure just getting down there and then getting onto the ship.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's great to be around the world. Really a treat to be in this beautiful location. You can see my background. This is Cape Town Harbor. The sunset may be blinding you a little bit, but right behind me is Table Mountain, the iconic Table Mountain. And right along the seashore is Cape Town Harbor, and that's where the SA Agulhas II is currently parked. As we prepare to depart tomorrow morning, I'm about 7 hours ahead of the east coast of North America. So I'm in the future. It is Friday evening here. And over the past couple of days, it's been quite a journey to get here, to be honest. COVID and the pandemic has made everything challenging, but putting together a team of this magnitude, there are somewhere around 60 or 70 expedition participants and 30 or 40 crew for the Agulhas, coming from all over the world. It's been quite a lot of logistics to get even just the people here all at the same time. On Sunday, flew from Chicago to New Jersey, the greater New York City area, where I had just a moment to wave to my friends in Brooklyn and Queens, all of our students in New York, before getting on one of the longest flights I've ever been on, a direct flight from Newark all the way down, crossing the equator to Cape Town, South Africa. It was about 15 hours on an airplane. And to be quite honest, it went pretty fast. I watched a couple movies, I had a couple snacks, took a nap, and I was there. So that was pretty enjoyable. The stressful thing, of course, is trying not to get COVID and trying to arrive in Cape Town at a point where I can get a negative COVID test and be able to join this historic, epic expedition. And so when I arrived in Cape Town, I went straight to a hotel where I quarantined for several days. And after a couple days, I got my negative PCR test, which was just the greatest possible relief to me. A number of the expedition team were there, just sort of in rooms all over the hotel, waiting for the same negative result, fingers crossed. And when we got that, we got on a van. We went right down to the harbor front, which was, we could have walked it. It's pretty close to the hotel we were staying in. But because we're about to ship out and technically leave South Africa, our first stop was the Customs and Immigration Center on the waterfront here, where we got our passports stamped. And then we came right to the ship. And for a lot of students who've been following this virtual exchange, or students who followed the Weddell Sea expedition in 2019, if you're I've been thinking about and dreaming about the SA Agulhas II for what feels like years now. I've seen so many pictures, I've heard so many stories about how amazing it is, but I just cannot emphasize enough how far it has surpassed my expectations. The moment I turned the corner and I saw the ship I've been thinking about, parked along the side of the wharf, I was so happy. I was so happy that that was where I was going. It felt like finally this was all happening, and I could allow myself to be truly excited about it. The wharf side by the ship is just full of activity. It is today. It was yesterday when I arrived. All of the equipment that we've talked about and we've shown you over the course of the last few weeks through Reach the World articles and video calls, I saw it all being loaded from the dockside into the hold of the SA Agulhas. I saw those custom ice drilling rigs with the special blades that are going to be drilling through the ice of the Weddell Sea. I saw the custom devices for launching the marine robotics vertically through those ice holes into the Weddell Sea. All of those lifted by some of these massive cranes that are on the SA Agulhas. There are 4 or 5 cranes that have been working nonstop since I've been here, getting those sorts of things onto the ship, in addition to the people. Right before I came, the second of 2 helicopters arrived. I think it actually from the Chicago area, so it wasn't close behind me, but it flew in through cargo to the Cape Town airport and was reassembled there, and then flown from the airport and landed on the back deck on the helipad of the Agulhas. So when I finally got on board after doing another COVID test and learning about all the COVID precautions that the expedition is taking, when I finally got on board, I got a chance to wander back into the helicopter hangar, which is where the helicopters are stored when they're not being used and for this transit period that we're about to go on. And there are 2 amazing helicopters just sitting there ready to be used. There's a Bell helicopter for passengers, and there is a really unique K-MAX helicopter, the one that came from Chicago, that only has room for 1 person, but it is capable of lifting several tons of equipment. So each of those helicopters has a special job, and we're going to be talking a lot more about that in the weeks to come. But by the time I was on the ship, by the time I was mingling and meeting this truly international crew of explorers, I mean, just walking up here onto this upper deck, this observation area of the Agulhas for this event, I think I heard 4 or 5 languages being spoken. Everybody's excited to be here. Everybody is putting their heads together, testing their equipment, installing everything they need for this expedition to be successful. And there's just this energy to the departure period of the expedition. Like I said, tomorrow morning at about 9 o'clock, we're going to pull out from this port. As I understand it, we don't go very far. We just go back over to that immigration center where we all have to get out and do some more passport stuff. But after that, we will be heading out into the South Atlantic and beginning a several thousand-mile journey across the South Atlantic into the Weddell Sea, where the real hunt for Shackleton's ship begins.
All right. Well, Tim, what an exciting journey you've had so far, and things are just getting started. So I imagine tomorrow is going to be a really exciting day when the ship does leave the port. You mentioned an international crew. We've got a great international audience joining us right now. I want to give a few shout outs. We've got classrooms in St. Louis, Brooklyn, Colorado, New York, Ontario here in Canada, Pennsylvania, France, Saudi Arabia, where else? Arkansas, New Jersey. So we've got a great group of students and viewers tuning in with us right now. And Tim, I know you can't move around a lot because we're connected via satellite right now, but can you give us a little pan around with your laptop? Let's take a little look at where you're sitting right now.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm in sort of a forward observation bubble at the top of the ship. This area is usually used for spotting ice and for looking for whales and wildlife as you're underway. So it's kind of sheltered from the wind. You can probably tell from my windswept hair and all the things going on behind me that it's very, very windy outside. So I'm going to try to stay within this cove, but I will spin you this way. You can see the ocean front there. bring you back over this way, get myself out of the picture here. What I really wish I could do is bring it to the edge of the ship, and I promise you I will at some point. But last night, as I was just sort of taking in the sunset, I was looking down into the water of the harbor, and I saw some seals playing in the water, and it was just a perfect sight. We're going to see a lot more seals in the days and weeks to come, but having seals around, and it's just a cue to me that I'm in some place really special, and we're about to embark on this big adventure.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And, you know, I think our classrooms understand that this is a tricky thing to do, to connect from areas like this. And it's going to get even more difficult in the days to come as you head further south into the very remote Weddell Sea. And with any luck, we've got some really cool technology that hopefully we'll be able to broadcast right from the ice. And that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this ship is really unique in its ability to stay connected to the rest of the world in one of the most remote and isolated places in the world. Pretty powerful equipment. I'm looking forward to putting it all to the test, because what I really want to do, what really motivates me, is bringing you all along with us and seeing some of these really special places that we're going to be visiting.
All right, so we're going to switch things over in just a moment and let the classrooms take over with their questions. So those who are tuning in live via YouTube, now's the time. Use that chat sidebar and start sending in some of your questions, and we'll work some of those in. We're going to start visiting our camera classrooms in just a moment, and we'll start taking some of their questions. But before we jump into that, Tim, one more question for you. You're leaving the port tomorrow. What are the next few days going to look like? What are you hoping is happening? What is the team hoping is going to happen over the next few days?
That's a great question. It's certainly on all of our minds, because we've all been planning and prepping and preparing for this moment, the moment where we're all on board and ready to go. And tomorrow is that moment. Tomorrow's the moment where we go out in the sea and we head out into the South Atlantic. So my understanding is that there is going to be some stormy weather on our path to the Weddell Sea. I have heard from many of the scientists on board who study ice on a daily basis and are just so smart and knowledgeable about ice and the way ice behaves, that we may be able to make a pretty direct path to the coordinates where Shackleton's ship was last seen. Under normal circumstances, the ice of the Weddell Sea is very, very tricky, and just getting to the edge of the ice is an accomplishment. And then finding your way through the ice to the sink site is a major accomplishment. But as I understand it, as it is now sort of the tail end of summer, and a lot of that really thick ice has broken up or is more navigable, easy to travel through. So the thinking is that we'll have a couple stormy days on the open sea in the next couple days, and then we will reach the edge of the ice pack within 6 or 7 days, and then work our way through the ice to the sink site. And there's a high chance that we'll be able to reach the sink site with the ship.
Okay, well, let's get to that Q&A action from our live viewers. I already see questions starting to come in via the YouTube chat, so that's great. But let's get started with one of our camera classrooms. So let's see here. Let's go to New Jersey first. We've got some 5th graders. They're hanging out with Mrs. Brancato. Let's bring them into the call and let's see what they're thinking about over there. Here we go. Hey, 5th graders, how we doing? Don't forget to grab the mic for me. You're still on mute.
Hi, my name is Jove, and I live in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. So my question is, what was Ernest Shackleton's true purpose to go into Antarctica?
Ooh, that's such a good question. He was an explorer. He was curious. He wanted to go places and do things that people had not done before. To push the envelope, he wanted to see what people had never seen, and he wanted to discover. And his real reason, as part of the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition of 1914, was to be the first person to travel overland all the way across Antarctica. So from one side of Antarctica through the South Pole and then out the other side. That was his goal. And as we know, and as we've learned about over the last few months and beyond, he didn't quite get the chance to do that. What we remember about him the most is what he did in the days, weeks, months, and years after the Weddell Sea. So he didn't actually even make it to the continent on this expedition. But his mission was definitely to explore and be the first person to cross the continent on land.
All right, that's a great question to get us started from our class in New Jersey. And I think it segues nicely into this question from Mr. Tomlinson's class on YouTube. They're wondering, we're seeing all this activity, the ship getting ready to go and head down to the Weddell Sea. So his class is wondering, why? Why do we want to find the Endurance?
That is a really great question, and it is something that we have to think about because there's a lot of money being spent on this expedition. There's a lot of resources being put towards this. What's the value of finding Shackleton's wreck? And I had the great privilege of speaking with Endurance22's Director of Exploration, Menson Bound, marine archaeologist, who we've heard from on these live streams before just yesterday. And we were talking about that. And he, like the other marine archaeologists on board the ship, just really emphasized the historical value of this ship. It can the finding answers about this ship, where it is, in what state it is, what it looks like, being able to find it in the first place, despite all of these odds, are all challenges that everybody on board the expedition thinks is definitely worth the money, definitely worth the time and all this effort. The goal, of course, is to be able to not only locate the wreck, but to do a really comprehensive marine archaeology survey of it, make this really complete laser map so that anybody, not just the people on the ship, not just you who are joining me virtually on the ship, but anybody from now on can use those maps as a resource to help sort of fill out the narrative of Shackleton and this expedition based on the evidence that is just sitting there waiting for us to discover at the bottom of the Weddell Sea.
All right, let's go to another one of our camera classrooms. This time we're gonna go to Boulder, Colorado. We've got some third graders hanging out with us. Let me get them into the call here. There they are. Hey, third graders, how we doing?
We're good. We're wondering if it's as cold here as it is in Antarctica right now. We had some nice -degree weather yesterday. My friend Leo's coming up to ask a question.
How long will the expedition be?
Hey, Leo, that's a great question. That's a very good question. To answer your first question, I came from Chicago, so I evaded a blizzard there. I just missed a blizzard in New Jersey, and now it's got to be 75 degrees and sunny in Cape Town. So I'm warming up my core body temperature before we head to Antarctica. And like I said before, it's summer still in Antarctica. It doesn't mean it's going to be warm there, but it will be more mild temperatures. I'm expecting sort of just above and around freezing on a nice day. So cold, but for those of us who are from Colorado or Chicago. Can you remind me of the second question, please?
How long will the expedition be?
Sorry, there's a little delay. I want to answer Leo's question. I forgot the second one.
I can help with that, Tim. It's he was wondering, how long is the expedition going to be?
Yes, thank you, Leo. Sorry, I got sidetracked. This expedition is pretty long for an expedition. We'll be gone for about 40 days or so. And to be honest, most of the length of this expedition is due to how long it takes to get to the sink site and how long it takes to get from the sink site. The journey itself across the southern Atlantic to the Weddell Sea is, like I said, could be 7, could be 10 days. So we're going to have to go there 7 to 10 days. We're going to have to come back 7 to 10 days. And that's quite a journey. The goal of the expedition is to spend as much time as possible in the ice, and give us the best chance possible of using these really, really cutting edge marine robotics to locate the wreck and map it. And our best chance is if we get there quickly, spend as much time as we can at the sink site, and then come back. So about 40 days.
Okay, back to YouTube. Let's grab a question here. We've got some third graders in Texas, and Daphne is wondering, Tim, is there anything that you're scared of happening on the journey? Obviously, there's a lot of thoughts probably going through your mind. The expedition's about to start, and Daphne's wondering what you're thinking about, anything you're scared of happening.
Yeah, Daphne, thank you so much for that question, because I don't think explorers talk enough about the fact that they are human and they have fears too. I mean, we're going someplace that is very remote. We're going someplace that can be dangerous if you're not prepared. As I said before, I've heard it might be wavy on the way to the Weddell Sea. It might be a little stormy. So I don't have a lot of experience on ships like this. I'm not sure if I'm going to be seasick. But I have brought some medicine, so I'm prepared. I'm going to do my best with that. The thing that really gives me comfort, and so if I have fears about some of these dangers of being in the Weddell Sea, the thing that really gives me comfort is the people on this team. Yesterday, I got a chance to meet the expedition doctor, who is just so great, so knowledgeable, has everything we would need in the case of an emergency. I've done a lot of preparation. I took a personal survival class back in Chicago. So in the worst case scenario, I feel very confident that I would know how to use the lifeboats, all the emergency equipment that's available on the ship. And then sort of all around me are all of these veteran Antarctic explorers, people who have been to Antarctica many, many times. The expedition leader, John Shears, I think this is something like his 25th expedition to Antarctica. So it gives me really great comfort to know that the people who are leading this expedition and supporting this expedition have been here before. They know what it's like. They know the risks, and everybody is prepared for them. It doesn't mean we can anticipate anything that could go wrong, but it does mean that we are very, very prepared, and that gives me a lot of comfort.
All right. This time we're going to jump to one of our camera classrooms. We've got a group that are joining us in Ottawa, Ontario, some grade sixes. They're learning virtually right now, but we've got their teacher joining us on the call. Let me bring our Ottawa crew in right now. How are we doing today, Ottawa?
Oh, fantastic. I have 30 students, all virtual, all year. And we would like to know what you would be excited to find once you do find the sink site. Do you have expectations?
Did you get that, Tim? I know there's
Sorry,
a bit of a delay.
There was a question in there. I missed it.
Yeah, they're wondering if you're successful in finding the sink site, is there anything you're excited to potentially see?
Oh, absolutely. I cannot wait to reach this portion of the Weddell Sea. So few people get to go here. I can't emphasize that enough. Only a small number of people, very, very small fraction of people on this earth have ever even had the opportunity to go to this section of the Weddell Sea. It's so hard to get to. But one of the things that is a benefit of it being so hard to get to is that it's completely untouched by humans. The wildlife, the environment is absolutely pristine. So just getting there, passing through the ice, being surrounded by ice is going to be exciting in its own right to me. I'm excited to see some penguins. I've got my seal with me, where he's excited, he or she's excited to see some friends. The wildlife is very exciting for me. And otherwise, the search for the wreck will be 10,000 feet underwater. So unfortunately, I'm not going to have as a front row seat to that search as I would like. But attached to those marine robotics are some really powerful lights, are some really high definition cameras, and they're going to be recording everything they see under the water. So it's almost like I'm going to be under the water with them, and any sort of wildlife that we encounter, any sort of creatures that are living on the wreck itself. I think it's completely possible that the wreck site will be full of life, and some of it, as I've said before, and as I've heard from some of the science teams on board, could be completely new to science, which is just beyond exciting in 2022 to know that there are creatures and places and things on this earth that have just never been discovered or seen by humans before. And I am just beyond, I can't even express in words how exciting that prospect is.
All right, very cool, Tim. You're a lucky guy. We've got a question here via YouTube, and they're wondering, you've only been on the ship for a little while, but do you have a favorite part of the ship already?
Ooh, thank you for that great question. This ship is just full of surprises. Seeing pictures of it did not do it justice. As I said before, I have explored every corner of this ship that I've been allowed to visit in the last few days. Some of my favorite parts, the helicopter pad and the helicopter locker, just amazing to be that close to a helicopter. I can't wait to see them in action. Just in front of the helicopter storage hangar, there's a moon pool, a section of the ship on the inside that you can open up a door and you can access the ocean through the bottom of the ship. I'm not sure we're going to use it on this expedition, but I'm definitely going to take a picture and share it with you all because I think it's really cool that you can do that. There are some really high-tech science labs for all different science areas. We have a group on the ship who are ice experts and who are studying in real time using satellite data the ice conditions of the Weddell Sea. And they have a whole control center set up where I can walk in and I can see what they're doing on their screens. They're monitoring using this data from the German Space Agency and NASA and others to see what the ice is and then compare those pictures to what they're actually seeing with their eyes down below. There are, beyond sort of the special areas, I love this spot up here. I'm definitely coming up here to do some whale watching at some point and just to see far into the distance. I hope we can connect again from up here in the Weddell Sea. The dining room has been great. It's a great spot to sit down and eat and talk to other expedition members. And I'm super happy about my room on the ship. It's got this great window that I can look out of. Right now, my view is Cape Town Harbor, and that's going to change tomorrow to the open sea. But I have a little desk where I can work. I've got space for all my stuff. I've already hung up on my wall behind me some of the artwork that some of you students have sent me and some of the well wishes that I received, and I absolutely love it. I'll send a picture of that too. So there's a lot more to discover. Right after we're done with this call tonight, there's an all expedition briefing from the expedition leader, and that is in a room towards the back of the ship that is, you open a door and it feels like you're in a school auditorium. It's so unlikely, but it's a great big meeting space where we can sit and all sort of hear the latest from the expedition leader. And I've heard that during the expedition, we're going to use that room for some movie nights along the way too. So it's not all work. There will be some fun as well.
All right. Let's go ahead now and grab another question from one of our camera classes. This time, we have a home group who are joining us from Calgary, Alberta, so here in Canada. Let me bring them into the call here. There they are. Hey, girls, how you doing?
Hi. We're Chloe and Cora, and we have a question for you. Would your boat be able to do this in the winter ice?
Ooh, interesting question. I don't know, and I'm not exactly sure whether the SA Agulhas II goes to Antarctica in the winter. I will ask somebody because I want to know the answer to that question too. This ship, I know, regularly goes down to bring food and supplies to the various scientific bases in Antarctica. So it is built for and used primarily for going to Antarctica. But whether or not it can go to the Weddell Sea in winter, I don't know. I know that it can do a lot. I don't know if the ice gets a little bit too thick for even this ship in winter. There may be areas you can go. I would highly suspect that we could not get to Shackleton's ship sink site in the winter, but I'll get back to you on that one. Great question.
All right, great question from the girls joining us in Alberta. And yeah, Tim, I would think you're right. We always think of Antarctica being so cold, but you're going down at such the perfect time right now when the weather's a little bit warmer, hanging around zero. I think, you know, the ice being thick and the cold weather, it would be tough to head down there in the winter. So we've got Miss Turney's class hanging out with us via YouTube.
You know, there's one other reason. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's one other reason why I'm not sure I would be that excited to go down to Antarctica in the winter. Once you get below the Antarctic Circle, so closer to the continent itself, during the winter, it is dark 24 hours a day. The sun never rises. That to me is a daunting prospect. The scientists who live on Antarctica do that regularly, but it's not. I'm pretty happy there's going to be some daylight so we can see what we're doing and take in all the beauty around us.
All right, another very good reason to maybe not head down there in the winter. So Miss Turney's class is joining us on YouTube, and they're wondering, with so many countries being represented on the ship, are all their flags being displayed somewhere? And they're also wondering, is the Endurance flag flying somewhere?
All right. Yes. Well, the ship, the Agulhas II, is registered ship of South Africa. So from the ship itself, they're flying the South African flag. It is registered to that country. That's how everybody knows that it is a South African research and polar supply vessel. The Reach the World Endurance22 flag, which I'm glad you brought up, is flying very proudly in my room right now. I'm going to take it with me around the ship and hope to use it as a backdrop for many of my future video calls with you all during this expedition. I've also handed out some flags to other expedition team members who I know are flying them very, very proudly in their various cabins and public spaces throughout the ship. So everybody on this expedition, all 70 or so of us, know that we have, you know, more than 700 classrooms following us on this expedition, and that the work that we're doing here is exciting for us, and that if we can share it with you and we can connect and show it to you, we can inspire hopefully the next generation of future polar scientists and explorers. So yes, the flag is flying proudly, but not on the outside of the ship, mostly on the inside right now. Sure, it would fly away today if we had it on the outside of the ship. It's so windy.
Okay, we're going to take another trip to New Jersey. We've got Miss Latour's class hanging out with us. I see some hands up in that classroom. How we doing, boys and girls? Oh, I think it went back on mute.
Hi.
How's it
My
going?
name's Dylan, and I have a question for you guys. Why are you not going from South America, and you're going from South Africa?
I caught about half your question, Dylan. Would you mind repeating it one more time, please?
Why are you not going to? Why is the ship taking off the dock from South Africa instead of South America?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. Thanks for that great question, Dylan. Hi, Miss Latour's class. Many ships go to Antarctica from the bottom of South America, largely cruise ships. I know that there are also polar resupply ships that leave from the very, very bottom tip of South America. The Weddell Sea is kind of between Africa, the bottom of Africa and the bottom of South America. I think it actually could be a bit closer to the bottom of South America, but the ship that we really, really wanted to use, and the ship that we feel is going to be most helpful in making this expedition successful, is this one that I'm sitting on right now, the SA Agulhas II. And it is based in Cape Town. This is its home port. So the expedition is devised around departing and returning to this port, even though it might mean a little bit more time on the sea. When we get to the ice, the qualities of this ship, the research capabilities that are supporting the scientists, the ice-breaking power of the bow, the strength of the engine, all of these things about this particular ship are really going to increase our odds of success. And a couple extra miles of travel on the ocean makes that all worth it.
Okay, let's go back to YouTube and let's see what we have here. So we've got another question here. This is from Miss Beach's class. They're joining us in Colorado, and they'd like to know, when you're not conducting research, this is from Giselle, when you're not conducting research on the ship, what are you guys going to be doing? What are you going to be doing in your downtime?
All right. Yeah, that's another great question. We have lots of very different teams. We're all one expedition, but we have lots of different teams who are doing different jobs. For example, helicopter pilots don't really have much to do until we get to the Weddell Sea, right? And if we get to the sink site, it's unclear whether we'll need the helicopters, but we need to have them on board, and we need lots of helicopter pilots and mechanics so that if they're called on to start setting up the ice camps, as is the plan, and here, if we don't bring it with us, we don't have it when we're there. So we need one of everything, to be quite clear. When we get to the sink site, for example, that will be the time where the Subsea team really kicks into high gear. They've been working so hard these last few days getting all of their equipment on board and stowed, but I'm hoping for their sake that our journey to the Weddell Sea gives them a little bit of downtime. My guess is that they're constantly going to be sort of tinkering with and improving their equipment so that they're sure we're ready to go when it's time to get here. On the ship, there's plenty of people to talk to. It's fun to see people from different groups, maybe the marine archaeology group talking to the science group, to the people who are studying sea ice and talking about some of the overlap areas in their fields. I expect that when we're not actively working, there will be a lot of people hanging out in the lounges on the ship, drinking some tea, and just either talking about our general excitement, trying to predict what's about to happen, or talking about our lives outside the expedition. So that's definitely part of an expedition team, not only the work, but the great people we get to meet.
All right, let's jump into another camera classroom. Mrs. Schaefer's fifth graders are hanging out with us. There they are. How's it going, fifth graders? Hey, everyone.
My name is Gregory, and we're in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. I have two questions for you. What condition do you think Ernest Shackleton's boat will be in?
Great, good question. Hi, Ms. Shaver's class. I'm sorry I missed the name of the student asking the question, but thank you for that great question. I'm not an expert in marine archaeology, but there are experts in marine archaeology aboard the ship, and they have told me that due to the unique conditions at the bottom of the Weddell Sea, very, very deep water, higher than usual salt content, not very much oxygen, the wood of the Endurance could very well and should very well be in pretty good shape even after 107 years. So the hope and the dream really is that the Subsea team is using these great robots to locate the ship. At one point, they'll find it, they'll switch on the cameras, and we'll see this really beautifully preserved wreck. And now, when I say beautifully preserved, we're still talking about a shipwreck. Remember, it got crushed in ice 107 years ago. It did not crush the ship to itty-bitty bits, but it is not going to be a perfect model ship sitting upright in the sand. It's still going to look like a ship that got crushed by ice. But the pieces that remain, the wood, that super strengthened hull of the Endurance that was built to withstand the forward crunch of ice, those things should be in good condition. And the most exciting thing to all of us is that we should get an answer pretty soon. I mean, we're set up to figure out the answer to that question. So we'll be sitting in the lounges talking about it until we actually have an answer to that question.
All right. You mentioned a second question. Go ahead, bud.
Do you know when you're going to announce the name of the seal?
That is a great question. I have seen some of the name submissions coming in, and I love them. They're great. I know that we have we're working on a list of finalists, and that our viewers, everyone following the expedition, are going to get to. It's so easier to have a name for this wonderful sidekick of mine, because I don't quite know what to call it right now. And once I have a name, we're going to be all adventures together. So it definitely needs a name, and I think it needs a name soon, hopefully sometime next week.
All right. Well, I think we visited all of our camera classrooms. I'm going to maybe squeeze in one more question from YouTube here, Tim, and then we'll let you continue with your evening. So our classroom, we've got a classroom here. We did an event talking about the smart buoys, and we met some of the scientists who will be working with those, some of the researchers. So this classroom is wondering, when do you think the first smart buoy will be dropped or deployed?
Oh, I am so glad we're ending on that question, because I met the team from the South African Weather Service who will be on the ship today. And this is not their first journey into the Weddell Sea aboard the Agulhas II. So I learned a lot from them and their experience. I've seen the buoys. They're in the hold of the Agulhas II, ready to deploy. I have seen the area on the ship. For the most part, when we get to the spots along the route where we're going to be deploying the buoys, we're going to, if possible, just dump them over the back of the ship. There's a nice spot back there. It's easy to toss something overboard if you want to. The plan is to drop them off at certain latitudes. So as we go down, once we hit that latitude, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning or noon or whatever time of day it is, that's where they want the buoy, and that's where it's going to go in the water. So we're already talking about, we're going to wake each other up. I'm going to get my Sharpie marker. I'm going to meet them at the back of the boat. Even if it's dark, we'll bring a flashlight or something, and we'll write the name of the buoy, and we'll write the schools who have adopted the buoy on the buoy and activate it, do whatever they need to do to get it start working and dump it overboard. There is one more spot on the boat where you can deploy the smart buoy on choppier seas when it's not safe to be on that lower back deck. There's a cool side door, kind of like a garage door off the side of the ship. That's in the same bay where the moon pool is. And you can raise that buoy a little bit. It's a little bit higher off the water. Raise the door a little bit. It's a little bit higher off the water, and you can deploy the buoy there. So we are all set to deploy the smart buoys. I can't tell you right now what the latitudes are, but they are going to be, we're going to start to deploy Cape Town port, and we'll be deploying them on a very regular basis. I imagine once every day or once every other day throughout that journey, and also on the way back.
Okay, well, let's get started with a huge shout out to those joining us on YouTube today. Thank you for your great questions. Good to see so many groups represented. Our camera classrooms, it was so great to see you today. We still got a few in with us, so let's bring them in for a big wave out here. Let's bring a few of them in there. There they are. Hey, boys and girls, good to see you. There's our crew in Calgary. I can't leave them out. All right, the seal is waving too. That's pretty darn cool. Tim, you have some exciting times coming ahead. We can't wait for our next, whoops, I took Tim away. There we go. We can't wait for our next live connection, Tim. Say hi to John, say hi to Menson, Chad, everybody else on board we've connected with, and we're looking forward to connections from the Weddell Sea.
All right, thanks everyone. Great questions, great to see you. I'm excited to take you on this journey with me.
All right, anybody who was tuning in today and hasn't registered for the newsletter, I'm going to put the link up there one last time. For now, let's take one look at that warm sunset. I know most of us here in Canada and the US it's a little colder, a little snowier, so we're going to soak in a little more of that heat, that sunset. Good luck getting underway tomorrow, Tim. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joe. Bye, everyone.